I currently have 10 editors full time on my staff. I've probably hired in my time 20 editors, and I am myself an editor and videographer. And the thing is that I've seen over 1,000 portfolios, maybe even way more than that. And I feel like I've identified a lot of great attributes of what makes a great video ad editor. And I think a lot of times people don't know how to get a good editor, what to kind of see, how do you vet an editor, especially if you aren't somebody with like a production background like myself. Like if you've never edited a video before, you really don't know like what is good and what's bad. You might have like some ideas. So what I want to do today is I want to talk a little bit about what our process is to find editors, how we do it step by step, what we're looking for, and hopefully you can take something from this. You know, this is a show called In the Cutting Room, and I think that a lot of times what our goal is of this show and of these videos is to basically give you the behind the scenes of content production, whether that's breaking down ads, breaking down strategy, or even just breaking down how production is done. There's so much that people just don't see. And I would love to just kind of share our process and what we're building here at Good Studios. So let's jump into an editor, what makes them great, and kind of what to expect from them. So one of the biggest, I think, issues when people are trying to find an editor for advertisement is like they almost are looking for this editor that already knows everything about creative strategy. They are like the David Ogilvy of video editing, and they're going to be able to, you just give them raw footage and they'll make ads that convert. And the issue is like, that's not what a video editor is. A video editor is somebody who is technically very sound within editing software like Adobe Premiere, DaVinci Resolve, Final Cut Pro. And they should be able to cut through very quickly, put together great text, do all of the like editing side of things. I think that it's helpful that they have creative strategy or understand what makes a good ad and what kind of shots they should be looking for. But you should not just think, I'm going to get an editor and they're just going to make ads for me, because that is just not how editors are trained. And I don't think that they should be necessarily. I think the strategy side is a skill that can be learned over time, like as a great like coach to them. But like you need somebody who can just do a really good job of cutting up footage and doing it very quickly. I think this is a big mistake by a lot of people when they are hiring editors, and they end up not continuing with those editors because they say, oh, these editors, they don't know how to make good ads. And it's like, well, that's not really their job. And we've talked about this in past episodes. I think it's one of the first few episodes where we talk about how to have the perfect brief and why you as a creative strategist or manager should be the one briefing the content, and the editor should just know how to read that brief, and they are kind of given the structure and then they execute that structure to the highest level. Now that we've kind of detailed out like really, I think the boundaries of an editor, and an editor should be within the boundaries of editing videos. That's the title, right? They're not strategists. They're not all these other things. You need to understand how to actually find them. The great thing is that there's many editors out there and there's a lot of great talent. And I think that there is going to be a continual need for great video editors as content expands in terms of its needs. And there's a lot of people who are really like looking to get into this. And you are also able to see that there's a ton of international talent, not just US based talent, that has really done a great job of learning the softwares and being able to put out a portfolio and find jobs. And for a lot of people internationally, this is a phenomenal job to be able to have, where they can get paid really well and do really great creative work. So I'm going to break down, I've hired US based internationally I've done it all. This process is for whatever you want to do, whether you want to do US based or international. You can do the same process and it's going to be totally fine. So the process is very simple. You put out a job listing. I use LinkedIn. You can choose if you want to be in the Philippines, in the US, doesn't really matter. I've done both. You say it's video editor. You talk through a little bit about the videos you're looking to produce, and you just kind of have a simple, like, we are looking for a D2C ad editor. This is what your responsibilities are. Learn how to read a brief, cut through footage, and then, make the final ads, work and collaborate with the team, etc. Now, you will have them send in a portfolio. Okay. I usually, like, just in terms of pure numbers, if I get I've gotten thousands of applicants. Like, I've gotten over 1,000 applicants. Okay. I look at 1,000 portfolios. The thing is like, you can quickly see if this person has it or doesn't have it. There's a lot of portfolios you see and you're like, "Oh, this just doesn't look good," and you're done, right? Boop, nope, not it, not a fit, reject. You got to go through the portfolios. You just got to. You got to spend the time going through the portfolios. You got to see what videos have they done, and are they, do they have quick cuts? Do they have like a pretty good, portfolio? The hard thing about looking at portfolios is the fact that, like, a lot of times, especially if they're starting out, like, they might have done some stuff that's like client-based work, but it's like not really their choice how they edited it. So you're like, you don't really know, like, is this what the client wanted or was it their choice? But, like, you can kind of see, do they have quick cuts? Can they caption well? Just kind of seeing, like, very simple things, like, really, like, design-wise, does it look good? Yeah, like, that's very basic, okay? What I do is I ask each person, so they'll apply. I will ask each person to send me their portfolio. Could they, do it? Could I, like, go onto their LinkedIn profile and see it? Yes, I could. But I'm already starting before I'm even testing portfolio is like, do they communicate well? Are they quick to respond? Do they really want this, right? If they really wanted this, they'll respond quickly, right? If they're just mass, applying, they're going to not really, like, see your message. It doesn't really matter. So I start there. I look at the portfolios. As I said, I already kind of talked through what I look for in the portfolios. And then from there, I might boil it down to, I don't know, 100, 200 people, 100 people from that 1,000. So we're already, just portfolio wise, you're only accepting 10%. Okay. I have a test that I've built. It is like a very simple test. I give them raw footage from a client of ours, and it's the same one. I haven't changed it over the last year. And it's like, here is some raw footage. Here is the brief. You're going to do this brief. Here is an extensive amount of directions, how to set up a project, how to do a bunch of different things that we do here at Good Host Use. I essentially, the whole, like, how we edit on Premiere Pro, this is exactly what you need to do. You need to set up your project this way, all this stuff. I have it so detailed and dialed because I want to see if they follow instructions. If I like their portfolio, I say, here is this video test. Now, you might be saying, well, Matthew, I don't know how to set up a Premiere project. I've never done that before. I'm not really sure. Totally fine. You make it as robust as you need it to make it, right? Like, and maybe to start, you're like, here's some footage, here's a brief, give me what you got. Cool. Like, that's fine too. You can do what works for you. So don't worry about, like, how I'm doing it. But mine is significantly more extensive. But that's because we have a lot more systems in place. And we're really just kind of seeing if they're going to follow those systems, because if they don't follow systems, then they're not going to be a good fit for us. So then from there, I give them the document. It's a Coda doc and it's public link. And I'm going to say, hey, I'd love for you to do this test video. Cool. Most people will not respond on the test. They just like don't want to do it, or they'll be like, oh, I'll do it, and they don't really do it. And then you'll get some responses back. And like just off the top, you can be like, did they follow my instructions? Right? Like I have a very simple instructions at the end of where to upload the footage and how to do that. Like step by step, click this link, upload here onto Air, and then message me. Like it's very, very clear. And if they can't do those things, then like they're probably not a good fit. But then the people that do have the videos, I'm like looking at them. Some are going to be good. Some are not going to be good. You can look at their portfolios and see like what lined up, what didn't line up. And you can really get a good feel for how they used footage, didn't use footage. And what's nice about having the same footage across this test, like over the many months that we've been hiring for editors, we've had the same test all the way through. So I can compare where people are because it's the same test. I'm not like being like, oh, well, that ad is really good. Well, maybe because the footage is really good compared to this other footage or whatever. Same test all the way through. And then from there, I then do a month-long full-time or like whatever, part-time, whatever I'm hiring for. I give them specific things. Hey, we're looking for a month trial. Let me know if you're interested. We really like the work. Cool. Then from there, they do a month trial with us. They get embedded into the team. We see how they work. We see what they produce. We see, are they continuing to follow on instructions? Are they communicating well? Because like sometimes a test isn't that great. It's like a good kind of like intro, like can they do this or not? Do they follow instructions or do they not? Right? But then from there, you're actually like going to see them for a month. Some will make it, some won't. And that's fine. You pay them, then you decide if you're going to keep them on or not. But once you have them on, like once you're like, hey, let's do this full time, or like, hey, let's continue on, they're already embedded in your system. And then they just keep coasting, keep cooking. And it's awesome. I think that this is a great way to hire editors. We've been doing this over the last few months. This is a great process. It's really allowed us to find great editors and really test them out before committing to them. And it's also a really great opportunity for the editors to see if they want to work with us, right? Like I see that as an employer, it's just as much of a risk or it's just as much of a commitment to work for somebody. And I've got to earn their trust. I've got to earn the kind of ability that they want to work with me and my team. So it's just as much of an opportunity for them to kind of trial out working with us if they like it or not. And that's really our process. Now, the thing that I think makes and allows our editors to really thrive and do well is that we are not expecting them to be a strategist. We're not expecting them to come up with what the edits need to be exactly, or, oh, like here's some raw footage. Like, can you make us some ads in there? And then you're like, oh, this stuff's not really working. It looks good, but it's not really performing. It's like, yes, not really their job. And so because we have a system around them with creative strategists giving them briefs from what iterations to make, what for whatever B-roll is for that line, this is what it should be like. They give them visual references. They give them all this stuff. It allows the editors to do what they do best, which is going through footage quickly, cutting through things, putting everything together, and then making it in a dynamic way that like you can't just do from like CapCut or something like that, right? And I think that like they over time are being taught and they're going to learn a lot of that creative strategy, a lot of like what makes ads great, all of that stuff they are learning and they have, and that helps them with their creative decision making as an editor, but they are not having to like just come out of nowhere and do it. And I think that's where they really thrive. And I think that you should push to teach them a lot of what advertisement is, and that will really help them. But again, when you're trying to find an editor, most likely you're not going to get that. And I think that like people really genuinely just make that mistake. They're looking for a unicorn. And I'm not saying like, oh, I'm this unicorn, but I will say that like I do come from a video editing background where I can shoot and edit. I built the process of how our editors are editing, right? Like I've built the whole file management, the flow, the workflow. That all came because I was at one point doing that. There's very few people who I know who are videographers who can edit and also like love copywriting and marketing and putting all those things together. So I don't expect that out of my video editors, and I don't think that you should either. And I always see these posts, they're like, who has a direct response editor? And it's like, that's if you're looking for somebody who can like be a creative strategist and an editor, those are very hard to find. Now, one of the other things I would say is really having your expectations of like what is success is super important for a video editor. You want to kind of have like, hey, this is what I'm expecting from you every single day or every week. Maybe it's a certain amount of output. And you really want to make sure that you're really like just clear with what you're looking for day to day, week to week, month to month. And I think this can really open up and give people an understanding of how they can succeed as an editor with you. And I think that's pretty much it. If you have any other questions about how to get a video editor, who is a good video editor, I think I definitely want to make like another video on how to like improve your video editors, or how to like help them or coach them, or things that your video editor can do, like a video editor creative strategy video. But today was really a quick one. I just wanted to kind of talk through our process. Last week we talked about who is a creative strategist and how you hire them. And I just felt like, well, the other kind of second important person within your kind of content creation space production system is a video editor, and you should kind of figure out how to hire them. And I get a lot of questions on how to do that. We've hired a ton, and I think that we have a really good process. I don't see myself changing this process. Like, I think it's a really great way of doing it. And to be honest, this was what I've hired the most for. And I'm actually now taking this same process and putting it across other roles. Like, I'm doing tests for other roles because I want to see how they're doing technically and things like that. And this is a great thing that we've put together. I also want to give a shout out to Adrian and Damien, who are my lead editors here at Good O Studios. And they were the ones that really helped put together the doc and put together a lot of this stuff. So you got to give the shout out where shout out is due. And that's the pod. So thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you. If you have questions about hiring in the US, internationally, let me know. Or you want to talk about video editors, also let me know. It's a core part of your production system. I'm excited I got a lot of stuff planned for future podcasts, videos, all that fun stuff. So I'm excited to keep this thing rolling. I appreciate everybody that's listening, watching. Y'all are the best. So thank you so much. And we'll catch you in the next episode of In the Cutting Room. All right. Bye-bye. Peace.